Look at your legs for a moment. Not later, right now. Because what I'm about to tell you may completely change the way you look at food. And it may explain something you've been quietly noticing but never fully understood. The slight hesitation when you stand up. That moment where your balance feels just a little off. The way your legs don't feel as steady as they used to. Most people ignore this. They call it just getting older. But what if I told you that in many cases, it's not age at all? What if I told you that some of the foods sitting in your kitchen right now, foods you trust, foods you may even believe are healthy, are slowly weakening your ability to walk? And here's the part that makes this dangerous. They don't cause pain. They don't give you a warning sign. They work quietly, over months, sometimes years, until one day your body simply doesn't respond the way it used to. And by then, it's much harder to reverse. I've spent years studying how the body changes after 60. Not just diseases, not just medications, but the small, overlooked shifts, the ones that quietly take away independence. And one of the most powerful patterns I've seen again and again is this. The difference between someone who stays strong, stable, and confident on their feet and someone who slowly loses that ability often comes down to something incredibly simple. What they eat every single day. Now, I want you to stay with me here, because one of the foods I'm going to mention later is something most people over 60 are eating regularly, thinking it's helping them, when in reality, it's doing the exact opposite. But first, let's talk about something hopeful, because not all foods work against you. Some actually rebuild what time has started to wear down. And the first one is something most people completely underestimate. Be honest. When was the last time you intentionally ate something to improve your circulation? Not your weight, not your cholesterol, but your circulation. Because circulation is everything. It's how oxygen reaches your muscles. It's how nutrients reach your nerves. It's how your brain stays connected to your body. And when circulation starts to slow down, everything starts to fade with it. Your strength, your balance, your confidence. Now imagine your blood vessels like roads. When you're younger, those roads are wide, flexible, smooth. Traffic flows easily. But over time, those roads start to narrow. They stiffen. They become less responsive. And suddenly, the areas furthest away, your feet, your lower legs, start receiving less and less support. That's why people first notice problems there. Cold feet, numbness, heaviness. A strange feeling like your legs are not fully awake. And here's the problem. Most people think this is normal, but often it's not. And this is where the first food comes in. Beets. Now I know, not everyone loves them, but what they do inside your body is too important to ignore. Because beets contain natural compounds that your body converts into something incredibly powerful. A molecule that signals your blood vessels to relax, to open, to expand. And when that happens, blood flows more freely. More oxygen reaches your muscles. More nutrients reach your nerves. And suddenly, your legs feel different, stronger, more responsive, more alive. There was a simple observation I remember from a group of older adults. Nothing complicated. They were just asked to walk. Some had consumed beet-based foods beforehand. Some hadn't. And the difference was noticeable. Not dramatic like a miracle, but real. Subtle improvements in endurance, in ease of movement, in how their body responded. That's the kind of change most people don't pay attention to. But it's the kind that adds up over time. Now think about this for a moment. How many foods are you eating right now that actively help your blood flow? Not many. And that's exactly why something as simple as this can make a difference. You don't need a complete diet overhaul. You just need to start giving your body what it's missing. Roasted, boiled, blended into something you actually enjoy. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Now hold that thought, because circulation is going to come back again, but not in a good way. When we talk about one of the foods you should be careful with, but before that, there's something else that becomes fragile with time, and that's your balance. Not your strength, not your motivation, your balance. And most people misunderstand this completely. They think balance is about muscles, but it's not. It's about communication. Your feet are constantly sending signals to your brain, tiny signals. Surface is uneven, adjust slightly, shift weight. Thousands of micro adjustments every minute, and your brain responds instantly. That's how you stay upright without even thinking about it. But here's what happens over time. That communication starts to weaken, not suddenly, gradually. And one of the biggest reasons is blood sugar instability. Now this is where the second food comes in, and it's something that looks ordinary, but behaves very differently inside your body. Sweet potatoes. Most people think all potatoes are the same. They're not. And this difference matters more than most people realize. Because when you eat something that causes your blood sugar to spike quickly, your body reacts. And over time, those repeated spikes start damaging the smallest blood vessels in your body, the tiny ones, the ones that feed your nerves, especially in your feet. And when those nerves start to lose support, the signals weaken. And when the signals weaken, your balance suffers. You don't always notice it right away. It shows up as hesitation, as slight instability, as that feeling of something is off. Sweet potatoes behave differently. They release energy slowly, steadily. They don't overwhelm your system. And because of that, they help protect those tiny communication pathways. They also support your muscles, your vision, your ability to react quickly. And reaction time matters more than people think. Because most falls don't happen because you're weak. They happen because you didn't react fast enough. That split second, that's where everything is decided. Now let me tell you about someone I'll call Ahmed. He wasn't inactive. He walked daily. He ate what he believed was a balanced diet. But he kept noticing something. His steps felt slower, less confident. He thought it was just aging, until he started making small changes, not extreme ones. Just replacing certain foods that spiked his energy with ones that supported it steadily. Within weeks, he noticed something. He wasn't thinking about his steps anymore. They just felt natural again. That's the kind of change most people overlook, because it doesn't come with a dramatic announcement. It just quietly restores what was slipping away. Now there's one more food I want to talk about before we shift to the ones you should avoid. And this one might surprise you, because most people don't connect it to strength at all. Leafy greens, but not just any, the darker, richer ones, because these do something most people never think about. They help your body manage where minerals go, and this becomes critical as you age, because over time, your body can start putting things in the wrong places. Instead of supporting your bones, certain minerals begin building up where they shouldn't, inside your blood vessels. And when that happens, those vessels become stiff, less flexible, less able to adjust. And once again, we come back to circulation, reduced flow, reduced support, reduced strength. Now imagine trying to walk confidently when your legs aren't getting what they need. It's not just about muscles anymore. It's about supply, and supply determines performance. There's also something else, your brain, because your ability to stay balanced depends on how quickly your brain processes information. And certain nutrients found in these greens help maintain that processing speed, that reaction window, that split second that keeps you upright. Now let me ask you something honestly. How often are you eating foods that actually support your brain and your balance at the same time? Most people aren't, and that's why this matters. Now here's where things shift, because up until now, we've talked about foods that help, but there's another side to this. Foods that quietly work against you. Foods that look harmless, sometimes even healthy, but behave very differently in an aging body. And the first one is something almost everyone eats without thinking twice. And the problem isn't obvious. It's subtle. It builds slowly. And by the time you notice the effects, it's already done damage. So before we go there, I want you to think about your daily habits. Not in a judgmental way, just honestly. What are you eating regularly that you've never questioned? Because one of those things might be the exact reason your legs don't feel the way they used to. And in part 2, I'm going to show you exactly what those foods are, why they affect your body differently after 60, and how small changes can protect your strength, your balance, and your independence for years to come. Now let's go deeper into the part most people never expect. Because the truth is, it's not always what you're not eating that creates the problem. Sometimes, it's what you're eating regularly, without question. Foods that feel familiar, comforting, normal. But your body after 60 is not the same body you had at 30. It processes things differently. It reacts differently. And certain foods that once had no noticeable effect start creating quiet damage. The kind you don't feel right away. The kind that builds. The kind that shows up later as weakness, instability, or worse, a fall that changes everything. Let's start with the first one, and I want you to really pay attention here, because this one surprises almost everyone. Corn. Now, before you react, let me be very clear. Corn itself is not poison. It's not something you need to fear. But the way it's commonly eaten and the frequency at which many older adults consume it, that's where the problem begins. Because corn is extremely high in a certain type of fat, and your body uses fats in very specific ways. Some calm inflammation, others increase it. And inflammation is one of the most misunderstood forces in the body. You don't feel it. You don't see it, but it quietly affects everything. Your joints, your blood vessels, your nerves, and over time, it starts interfering with how your body moves. Now imagine inflammation like a slow-burning fire, not big enough to set off alarms, but always there, always active, always doing a little bit of damage. Now combine that with aging blood vessels, and suddenly, your circulation becomes less efficient. Blood doesn't flow as smoothly. Your legs receive less oxygen. Your nerves receive less support. And slowly, your strength begins to fade. Not dramatically, just enough that you notice something isn't the same. Your steps feel heavier. Your legs feel tired sooner. You start avoiding stairs. You hold on to railings more than you used to. And you don't connect it back to food. But the connection is real. Now, there's something else about corn most people don't think about. It affects blood sugar, not in an obvious way, but in a way that adds to the problem. Spikes, followed by drops, and those fluctuations, over time, damage the smallest, most delicate systems in your body, the ones responsible for balance, for sensation, for coordination. So when I say be careful with corn, I'm not saying eliminate it completely. I'm saying be aware, be intentional, because what you eat repeatedly becomes your body. Now let me ask you something. How often do you eat something just because it's there, because it's familiar, because it's always been part of your routine? That's where small changes begin, not in extremes, but in awareness. Now the second food. And this one is even more surprising, because most people believe they're making a healthy choice when they consume it. Canned tomatoes. Now fresh tomatoes, completely different story. But canned versions come with hidden problems. Problems that don't show up on the surface, but exist in the background and slowly interfere with your body's balance. The first issue is what happens during storage. Certain chemicals can leach into the food, and your body doesn't process these easily. They disrupt internal balance. They increase stress inside your system. And again, we come back to inflammation. But there's something even more immediate. Sodium. Most canned products are loaded with it, and sodium, in excess, changes how your body holds fluid. Now think about your legs. At the end of the day, do they feel heavier, slightly swollen, tight? That's not random. That's fluid distribution. And when excess fluid builds up, it creates pressure. Pressure on blood vessels, pressure on nerves, pressure that interferes with proper circulation. And over time, that pressure contributes to weakness, to discomfort, to instability. Now imagine going to sleep every night with that pressure still present, and waking up with legs that don't feel fully recovered. That's how small habits turn into long-term problems. Now I want to tell you about someone I'll call Fatima. She was careful with her diet, cooked at home, avoided junk food, did what she believed was right. But she relied heavily on canned ingredients, convenient, accessible, familiar. And she started noticing something. Her legs felt heavier, her energy felt lower, her balance slightly off. Nothing dramatic, just enough to concern her. When she made a simple shift, choosing fresher options when possible, reducing reliance on processed versions, something changed. Not overnight, but gradually. Her body felt lighter, more responsive, more stable. And that's the key word, stable. Because stability is what keeps you independent. Now the third one, and this one is the most deceptive of all. Because it doesn't harm you directly. It harms you by giving you almost nothing. Iceberg lettuce. Now this is where people get confused. Because it's always been labeled as healthy. It's part of salads. It's associated with clean eating. But here's the truth. It's mostly water. Very little nutritional value. Very little support for your body. And the problem is not what it does. It's what it replaces. Because every time you fill your plate with something that offers minimal support, you're missing the chance to give your body something it actually needs. Now think about this. If you eat a full meal, but your body still lacks essential nutrients, what happens? It starts running on empty, quietly, slowly, without obvious warning. And over time, that lack shows up in your muscles, in your nerves, in your ability to stay balanced, because your body isn't being damaged directly, it's being undernourished. And undernourishment is one of the biggest hidden problems in older adults, not because people aren't eating enough, but because they're not eating what truly supports them. Now imagine building your meals around foods that actually nourish you, that strengthen your systems, that support your movement, instead of just filling space. That one shift alone changes everything. Now let's pause for a moment, because I want you to reflect, not on everything at once, just one thing. Which of these foods shows up most often in your routine? Be honest with yourself, because awareness is the first step, not perfection, not restriction, awareness. Now here's something important. Most people don't lose strength all at once. They lose it gradually, quietly, one small change at a time, until one day they realize they can't do something they used to. And that moment is often what people call aging. But in many cases, it's accumulation of habits, of patterns, of small choices repeated over time. Now I want to tell you about another person, someone who represents a lot of people watching this right now. Let's call him Khalid. Khalid was independent, active, proud of the fact that he didn't rely on anyone. But he started noticing small things. Getting up felt slower. Walking felt heavier. He began avoiding longer distances, not because he couldn't, but because it felt harder than it used to. He didn't think much of it, until one day, he stumbled, didn't fall, but it shook him. Because for the first time, he realized something had changed. Not suddenly, but gradually. And when he started paying attention to what he was eating, to how his body responded, he saw patterns. Foods that left him feeling sluggish, heavy, unstable. And when he made small adjustments, not drastic ones, just intentional ones, something shifted. He didn't feel young again, but he felt capable, confident, in control. And that's what matters. Now let's talk about mistakes, because even when people try to improve, they often do things that cancel out their efforts. The first mistake, trying to change everything at once. That rarely works. Your body adapts best to gradual change, small steps, consistent actions. The second mistake, focusing only on restriction, removing foods, without adding supportive ones. Your body doesn't just need less harm, it needs more support. The third mistake, assuming that healthy always means helpful. Not all healthy foods serve every stage of life equally, and after 60, your priorities shift. Now here's what you can do, starting tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. Look at your next meal and ask one simple question. Is this supporting my strength or slowly taking it away? That one question changes everything. Add something that improves circulation. Replace something that spikes your system. Choose foods that nourish, not just fill. And give your body time to respond, because it will. Now I want to say something important before we close. You are not fragile. You are not past your prime. Your body is still capable of responding, of improving, of adapting. It just needs the right inputs and the right consistency. Because the truth is, your independence is not decided in one moment. It's built daily, meal by meal, choice by choice. And you still have control over that, more than you think. So start small, stay consistent, and pay attention to how your body responds, because it will tell you everything you need to know. If this made you think differently, I want you to do one thing. Share this with someone you care about, because there's a high chance they're making the same mistakes without even realizing it. And one small insight can change years of their life. And if you want more content like this, clear, practical, and designed to help you stay strong and independent, make sure you subscribe. And before you go, I want to hear from you. Which one of these foods surprised you the most? And what's one change you're going to make starting today? Write it in the comments, because that one decision might be the one that keeps you steady for years to come.